think it's never too early to start seeing how this roster may shape up. And here's what we got on the defensive side of the ball. Tim, let's start in the middle with defensive tackle, okay? So you'll notice here from our lads, nose tackle, defensive tackle, okay? And again, I know there's people that thinks Kenny Clark's a 3-tech. You'll see here they have him as the nose. That's what he predominantly played last year, where we were in that nickel 4-2. You see they say a base of 4-2 instead of a 4-3 because we were probably in that over 70% of the snaps on defense last year. So here's how the depth chart lays out right now, Tim. Nose tackle is Kenny Clark. D tackle or 3-tech, Devonte Wyatt. Backing up Kenny in the nose is Carl Brooks. I think many people didn't realize just how much 1-tech Carl played last year. It was all over the tape, though. They're showing the backup to Devonte Wyatt at 3-tech as Kobe Wooden. I would disagree with that. I think that you might want to try to work in Warren Brinson. Boy, I got that back.
I know all these names, man. There's so many names.
They're so new. So new. Warren Brinson, I could see him competing with Kobe Wooden to fight for that 3-tech. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Carl Brooks kicks into the 3 from time to time as well. But you've also got behind Warren Brinson at nose tackle, you've got Nazir Stackhouse. And I know he was a UDFA, but Nazir Stackhouse is one of those guys, Tim. He was highly scouted last year. You know, people were talking about him being a potential 3rd-round pick as the last I heard, and then he just kind of falls off the face of the earth. But if you bounce back to 3-tech, they've got James Esther and then Nesta Jade Silvera with Keith Randolph behind him as a 3-tech. So when you look at this, and I need to pull up my article again on how many we carried. I'll try to find that real quick. But on the surface, man, what I see are 5 that are locks for the roster. And you guys know we talked about 3-tech going into the offseason. Like, I would love to see them draft the 3-tech of the future, you know? And when I say a 3-tech, it's you could get someone who could play nose, but when you're in the nickel so often, you want someone who's built more like a 3-tech to play the nose in that base 4-2-5 because you're going to be getting after the quarterback out of that nickel a lot. So with that being said, I think those 5 are Devonte Wyatt, Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, Kobe Wooden, and Warren Brinson. I wouldn't be surprised if they do carry 6 that Nazir Stackhouse rises to the occasion and passes James Esther up. But what do you think, Tim? How do you see the defensive tackle spot, man?
I agree. I think Nas Stackhouse is probably a pretty good 1-tech option. But, like, I think it's pretty much the same way. I'm not sure about some of these other guys. I'm not familiar with Randolph or Silvera and Jeremiah Martin. But feel pretty good about the crop that we have here. Just kind of way too early depth chart prediction here. But I'm with you, Clay. I think Nas Stackhouse would be the one I would keep an eye on that could move up the depth chart and kind of make a name for himself here as a UDFA. And I also agree with the sentiment of Kobe Wooden maybe not necessarily being number 2 behind Devonte Wyatt. So we'll see.
Yeah. Coach Lynn says we got 3 Georgia boys on the defensive line, man. Goody loves those Georgia guys. There's no doubt about it.
Them Bulldogs.
So we broke camp last year at the defensive tackle position, Tim, first year under Jeff Hafley, with 5 defensive tackles. They were Kenny Clark, TJ Slayton, Devonte Wyatt, Carl Brooks, and Kobe Wooden. So TJ Slayton obviously signed I think a 1-year, $7 million deal somewhere that he went.
Cincinnati, I believe.
Yeah, so that's the void you're most likely filling. And to me, Nazir Stackhouse fits that mold as a nose tackle, big boy there, and perfect number to wear too, number 93, right? TJ Slayton and the Grave Diggers number there. So,
and Stackhouse fits that mold, right? He's a big guy, right?
Thick.
There's a chance you could carry 6, but if they say, you know what, we're gonna roll Carl Brooks out there at nose tackle, and then try to work Warren Brinson in where you can, or maybe you kick Warren Brinson up to the backup nose tackle and play Carl Brooks in the 3-tech and slide Kobe Wooden down on the step chart. I could see that as well. If you carry 6, it's going to be Stackhouse because of that nose tackle, ability there. So that's kind of how I see that personally with the defensive tackle room. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, not thrilled with it. I'm not thrilled with it for the reasons I just talked about. Like Kenny Clark, I expect he may get a little better from last year, which it's not really saying a whole lot when you grade out 60, right? But if he can stabilize at a 65, okay, we'll be all right. But in terms of depth, I really don't think people understand the role that TJ Slayton played last year. He had the second highest pressure percentage amongst defensive tackles on the team, if I remember correctly. He was only behind Devonte Wyatt. He had a better quarterback pressure rate than Kenny Clark. And he was that traditional nose tackle where you could kick Kenny to 3 if you needed to put our boy in there. So, and Devonte Wyatt, of course, last year he battled that ankle injury, if I remember correctly, there toward the end of the year and into the playoffs. So you're one injury away from being kind of in a bad spot at defensive tackle. And that's why I was pressing so hard into the draft process of, man, probably need to go get a defensive tackle. So that's kind of how I see it. Again, I think Devonte Wyatt could take a step forward. He's a great pass rusher. I say great. I think he's a very good pass rusher. He's a top 23 pass rusher in terms of defensive tackles in the entire NFL. It's his run game that he struggles with a little bit, tackling ability, that type of thing. So anything else on defensive tackle before we move to edge, Tim?
That's a great point about Wyatt. That's where you want to see him take a step in the run fit, not necessarily the pass rush. And a lot of it's probably just technique for him. And hopefully as he develops as a pro, that continues to improve.
Yeah, for sure.